In this webinar, we are going to discuss prompting for precision. We're going to move beyond basic AI use and get to the heart of what is the most effective way of using AI. So we're going to produce some more accurate, structured, and consistently useful marketing outputs. We're going to focus specifically on marketing. We're going to focus specifically on a generic set of rules, I guess, and best practice currently for using AI. So I'd like you to think before we start, what kind of marketing task currently produces the most variable or maybe even disappointing results from AI for you? And that's irrespective of the AI platform that you're using. Just think for a moment about an area maybe where you're using AI, but it kind of comes short, it falls short, and you just sort of think, okay, I think I could probably get a little bit more from this, a bit more value, a little bit more accuracy, maybe some more quality output, and maybe even feeling as though, well, I could have just done that better myself. This is what we're here to discuss today. And this really is quite poignant in terms of timing, because basic prompts can produce, yeah, plausible work, but plausibility is a low standard for today's professional marketer. We increasingly need outputs that are going to be more accurate, more relevant to a real audience, consistent within our brand guidelines and requirements, grounded in reliable evidence, so no hallucinating, and structured for practical use that can be used across repeatably our team. OpenAI's current workplace guidance says that clear prompting will help you produce more reliable and useful results. And Google has backed that up with a lot of specific instructions around context, examples, structure, and iteration. So the key point really here, as we go through all of these materials and ideas and thinking, is that the aim is controlled quality, not simply faster generation. And I think for a lot of us, we've been swept along by the scalability of what AI can produce, whereas actually it is often about quality rather than just purely quantity. So by the end of this session, hopefully we'll get you to a point where you can diagnose why a prompt is currently producing weaker than expected results. And we're going to build some prompts around some clear outcomes and success criteria. So it isn't just about the output, it's about the outcome that arises from that output. That's going to be key. Go deeper into that. We're going to supply better context and source material for our AIs, specify structure, constraints, and quality requirements. So really setting the boundaries so the AI can respond appropriately. And we're going to improve prompts through testing and targeted iteration. And we're going to create some reusable prompting systems so that we don't just do this the once, but we create some consistent marketing work every time we start to use our AI. So let's get into some definitions. What do we actually mean when we say precision prompting? Well, in my view, this is giving the AI just enough direction, context, and evidence to complete a task or to create an output and an outcome to an agreed standard. Okay, so this is where we are not going to accept second best. We're not going to think, oh, well, I've just used AI, so therefore the answer is going to be great. So we need to step up too. If we expect AI to step up, our prompting needs to step up accordingly. And this is generally going to involve setting some clear goals, relevant background, some reliable source material, very specific instructions, including some defined constraints, a clear output contract. Notice that word contract. This is a deal, it's a conversation, it's a relationship. And then finally, a quality check. And so the precision that we're talking about here comes from prompt architecture, not impressive sounding vocabulary. There's a process in this that I really, really want to encourage you to think about. It isn't just about being clever with words, it's about giving clear and specific guidance through a repeatable process. That is where precision prompting comes from. And of course, we need to define the fact that there's no perfect universal prompt. I can't just give you, here's the single prompt that's going to solve all your problems. Different tasks require different levels of context, evidence, creativity, structure, reasoning, and human review. Of course they do. Not everything is equal. Not every task you do is of the same value or the same level of complexity. So prompting is the same. There is no one single prompt. If anybody tells you there is, there isn't. Because, of course, all of us are doing different roles in different styles of business for different sectors with different customers. Everything is different, and yet there are some general and reliable frameworks or structures that enable you to do that specific personalization of your prompt for your AI alongside something that is a consistent framework. Let's call it that. So a prompt, the key point here is that a prompt should be designed for the task, the audience, the model, and the risk level. Now, the lovely thing about many AIs now, ChatGPT being a perfect example, is you can tell the AI which version of it you'd like it to operate at. So in other words, if you want to have a quick answer, you can get it to do the instant response. But of course, that is not enabling it to go deeper, if it is a deep task, than say the pro or the high level or the deep research version of it. So you can see already the AIs are becoming aligned with this kind of need for us to be working with it on different levels at different times for different tasks. And that's fine. That's good because, again, it enables us to keep control over what's going to happen. And of course, the prompt is not the whole prompt. What we need to do is really kind of think about this as a stacking kind of framework. In other words, you don't just do one prompt and think, right, there's my prompt. I'm going to go away and make a nice cup of coffee and I'm going to come back and the world is going to be solved. It isn't like that. So generally, we will be prompt stacking. And there's a 6-layer prompt stack, which is a great little model that reflects kind of best prompt performance, really. And it talks about the platform and the model, persistent instructions, intended outcome, context and evidence, the output contract, and evaluation. So, which layer do you currently rely on most, and which do you tend to overlook in that list of 6? Because for a lot of us, we probably front end it, we front load it. So, we're kind of going to give maybe some persistent instructions, but maybe not really the intended outcome. So, we're looking for an output, but we don't tell it the intended outcome. And of course, if you miss that bit out, the nuance of kind of how it's going to deliver its result to you is going to be subtly changed by the fact that actually it was for this different outcome you're looking for. So, in other words, if the monthly report that you're getting it to help you write is just a monthly report, that is very different to a monthly report that requires, as an outcome, more budget next month, for example, or requires briefing the chief exec who doesn't normally get this monthly report. That's a different outcome. So, being really specific, deciding that you're going to actually commit to these prompt stacks rather than just an individual prompting moment is going to really, really help you. So I want to go through these layers because they are really important. This will start to enable much more precise prompting if you choose to go down this route. So let's take the first layer here, choosing the right platform and model. Not every disappointing result is caused by a weak prompt. Sometimes you're not choosing the right platform and the right model. So think, does the task require current web research? Does it require document or data analysis? Is it deep reasoning that's more important than speed? Does it require image, video, and audio capability? Is the task going to be sensitive or confidential? Does the model actually have the tools required? Start by matching the tool to the work. Now, you might think, well, that's really obvious, but you'd be amazed how many people just use a single tool. Copilot is a great example and expect it to be best in class at everything. That generally is not the case. So, using a toolkit of AIs could be for different tasks and more complex projects or campaigns could be the right answer. Layer 2, using persistent instructions. Now, this is something I've talked a lot about in the past. Using persistent instructions establishes requirements that apply across multiple tasks. In other words, examples could include brand voice, audience definitions, approved terminology, words or formats to avoid, evidence standards, legal or compliance boundaries, preferred spelling and style, escalation rules. The list goes on and on. Do not repeat permanent requirements inside every individual prompt when they can be managed somewhere else consistently. So, in other words, in something like ChatGPT, create a project that you know you're going to be prompting consistently in, and into that project, load those things. Those are persistent instructions that apply to all of the prompting you're going to do inside that project. It's like a folder system, much as a folder on your computer. You would have a particular topic and then load it up with all the files and documents and images around that topic. So, it's all consistent and it's all around that topic. The same thing applies here with persistent instructions. You do not want to be saying the same thing time and again, where saying it once within a project then makes it apply to all the chats or threads in that project. So persistent instruction saves you time, but also from the AI's perspective, keeps the consistency. And that's going to be absolutely key. Layer three, then, defining the intended outcome. Now, I've already mentioned this in a couple of ways, but already. So this is a really, really important one. So, for example, here's a nice little simple example. A weak prompt would be write a LinkedIn post about our webinar. Okay. Well, where does that take you? Okay, well, I'm just going to write a post about our webinar. Okay, well, that could be this big, that could be that shape, it could focus on this, it could look at that. It's a weak prompt, isn't it? It's obvious. A stronger outcome-focused prompt would be create a LinkedIn post that persuades mid-level UK marketers to register for a practical webinar about campaign measurement. Now, what has happened there? We've defined who the output's for, what they should understand, what they should feel, also what they should do, and also what quality looks like. So those things help to define the outcome. In other words, more people booking for the webinar. Just writing a LinkedIn post about our webinar goes nowhere. It's generic, it's vanilla, it's bland. There is no impetus or energy or passion behind it, or focus or relevance. There's no hook. Whereas actually, if you define those elements, the output, what they should understand, feel, do, and what quality looks like within the prompt, that defines the intended outcome, and it should hopefully then get the required outcome for you. So a practical kind of framework that kind of sits nicely in at this particular layer, as we're talking through each of these layers, is the CRIT framework. Now, I use this one a lot. I talk about this one a lot, and it is really, really useful when you're trying to get your own human head around complex or ambiguous tasks. So this helps the AI as well, because AI works through logic. It works step by step by step very quickly and almost doesn't really show you it's doing that, but it does. So this CRIT framework enables you to kind of translate your probably random and chaotic thinking for a big project down into a really precise prompt. So the context, explain the organization, market, audience, and situation. The role, define the expertise or perspective the AI should apply. In other words, tell them who they are acting as or like. Interview. I'm going to go deeper into this one in just a second, but interview. Ask the AI to identify missing information before beginning. Conversation, remember? Not just prompting and telling, conversation. Talk about that in a moment. And then task. The T in CRIT is for task. State the output, constraints, and intended outcome. So this is going to this CRIT framework turns the AI from an instant answer machine into a structured thinking partner. That's what we're after. Yeah, you'll know I often say, because I have many, 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 many times talked about the AI relationship. And it's only a relationship if you're listening and actually in conversation, because that is a relationship, isn't it? Whether it's AI or human or whatever. Listening and acting upon the feedback is the way to build this. And this is why in CRIT, the interview stage needs to be used properly. And it's really valuable because what it enables is for the AI to come back at you with gaps. If the brief's incomplete, if important choices are yet to be made, if several audiences are involved, that's a complexity, the AI will need to access your judgment, and a generic answer would be pretty weak commercially. So, I mean, a good example really here is before producing the campaign plan that you might be building here, interview me one question at a time, focus on objectives, audience, offer, budget, channels, evidence, and constraints. In other words, talk to me, AI. Tell me what it is you think I'm missing, because it could be hiding in plain sight. So what we're trying to do here is get into this sort of interview conversation with the AI as part of these layered processes. So the prompting becomes way, way more interesting and exciting for us as humans, rather than just prescriptive, do this next, do that, do this. It actually becomes much more of a two-way flow, an exchange, if you like. And this is where prompting for precision really starts to score, because your level of prompting suddenly, just by doing this, has gone tenfold beyond everybody else. It really has. Not that many people do it this way, but those who do, well, they'll just smile at you knowingly, knowing that actually they are way ahead of where everybody else is right now, where they're just putting an input in and getting an output. So the conversation through interview is key. Layer four builds on that, and this is providing the context and evidence. So useful kind of context within the prompting layering, this stack that we're building, is things like company information, audience research, campaign objectives, brand guidelines, relevant documents or data sets, product or service details, competitor information, customer language, etc., etc., etc. There'll be a whole bunch of stuff. You can pick a mix from that layer there, because this is about deciding what it is. Again, if this was a human and you were briefing them face to face in reality, you would give them all this background. You wouldn't just say, go do a campaign, would you? Because it'd be like, yeah, but what, to who, how, where, what have we got? So the AI needs to know as well. Do not assume. And even if you've done it before, just check in, interview. Remember, it's like, how much do you remember of our last campaign? And the AI will tell you how much it can remember. Sometimes it'll be a lot and it'll be already pre-briefed. Other times, yeah, I don't think I can remember what we did last time. I can't reference that previous project. Okay, and then you start again. AI cannot reliably apply evidence that it hasn't been given or instructed to find. Remember, you are the orchestra conductor. Don't expect the AI to be able to second guess you. Sometimes it can. They really are becoming that clever. But let's just build on the premise right now. You've got to provide the context and the evidence. And separate evidence from instructions. Okay, so structure complex problems really, really clearly. I mean, Google recommends using headings, prefixes, or tags to separate prompt components and reduce ambiguity. In other words, take your time. This will reap rewards, I promise you. If you're willing to reflect and slow down in your prompting, the rewards you get out on the other side will blow your mind. If you think, I haven't got time to do that, then you will get what everybody else is getting, which is average medium quality outcomes and outputs. So separate evidence from instructions by thinking about what the work must achieve, the background information, documents, data, or evidence to use, what the AI must do, rules and boundaries, required structure, and how the answer should be assessed. So there's a list there: objective, context, source material, task, constraints, output format, and a quality check. These are really, really clear ways to move the game forward. Again, as I say, the more you are willing to invest in this, and it literally can be, if you do this right, it can be one time. This can be a one-time exercise within an individual project that can be referenced again, again, and again. And then you can tune it for different audiences or different seasons or different products or services. It's really clever stuff. Simple, logical, structured, frameworked, but you've got to invest in it. Layer five of our six layers. This is creating an output contract. Now, I love this word contract because, again, it's a relationship with the AI. If you got willing to specify the format, length, number of sections, required headings, maybe this is, a monthly report that I just mentioned before as an example, the intended reader, level of detail, what should be excluded. Doing that is far, far better than just saying, keep it concise. Because your concise might not be my concise, might not be the AI's concise. What is concise? But actually specifying the detail then becomes the contract. So use five headings maybe with no more than 80 words beneath each heading. End with three prioritized recommendations. There's precision. So Google, and all of the big platforms are giving lots of guidance and tutorials, and you can look this stuff up. But Google itself actually warns against using vague terms such as brief when an objective limit can be provided. So if you need a certain word count, Tell the AI it can work to word counts. It might come in there or thereabouts, plus or minus 10%, but that's okay. Far better than make it a long report or make it concise. Because what does that actually mean? It's so vague and ambiguous. Ambiguity is not helpful when you want to get some good outputs leading to great outcomes. And use examples when consistency matters. I mean, this is again a really key thing. Probably in most of the stuff you do, there are already existing examples of best practice within your marketing or within your business, stuff you're happy with, things that have worked in the past. Load those in too. If that helps you explain the standard more clearly than just having a big long report of what you'd actually like, well, here's one I prepared earlier, is probably a much easier thing for the AI to work with. That's going to be really, really important. And can you just imagine the AI smiling back at you, thinking, oh, you so get this, you so get how I work, because now you're giving me an example. I'm probably not going to copy it, but I know now what you're thinking. This is about getting out from our heads what we're thinking and what we want and putting it into the AI. Yes, there's a bit of a kind of a trust thing going on here that it's going to be used appropriately, but try it. And set meaningful constraints as well, things where you don't want the AI to wander. And there will be so many things that the AI can do because, of course, it can deliver an almost infinite set of possible outcomes. So if you don't want claims that can't be substantiated, if you want it to use British English rather than US English, if you do not want it to repeat the same point, and it will, of course, and of course, you can also tell it if you don't know something, don't make it up. If you find your AI begins to hallucinate, it is not the AI's fault. The AI is there designed to please you. But if you don't want it to please you, if you want it to identify, actually, if I don't know something, can I just shout at you, Neil? Can I just tell you I don't know? Then that's fine. Tell it that it is perfectly permissible. And in fact, you'd encourage it that if it doesn't have the data, if it hasn't got the evidence, if it can't make a decision, tell you. And then you can work together on actually how you're going to deal with this. That's a far better way of doing it than just kind of getting it to make something up. And then you've got to then sift through the output to figure out, well, what's actually correct and what can I actually justify? And well, where's the proof of that? Oh, I don't know. I can't see it. Don't let things fall through the crack. Be really open and honest and give the AI an honest way out. It may generate a really plausible answer when the requested information is missing, and it might be very, very hard for you to actually spot that actually this whole thing was fake. And it's not doing it because it's trying to be dishonest. It's not doing it because it's trying to be bad. It's doing it because it's trying to infill to the best of its ability. So precision includes knowing when the AI should stop and the AI also knowing when it should stop, and that is when it starts to make things up that aren't evidence-based. So again, that can be another rule that you put into your framework or into your stack of prompting that really helps it to work out what it's doing. And of course, if it is a big project, if this is a big, big campaign or something that's a really complex task, maybe having some checkpoints where you kind of check in en route. I mean, it's lovely, isn't it, to think, oh, I can set up the prompts and then I can go away and do something else and I'll come back when it's done. But the reality is often I might need to, certainly in the first few iterations of this project style, maybe if it's something new that you're doing with I might need to just kind of sit with it and watch how it's working. Maybe I can watch how it's thinking and breaking things down. And if it does become a little bit stuck in places or needs my input, then I'm there. It doesn't mean that I'm wasting time because, again, if I do this right the first time, I've now got a blueprint that I can then repeat. So prompt chaining gives you much more control over the work and opportunities to correct within the prompting flow. So we call it prompt chaining. So if it's a big, long set of instructions, break it down, is what we're saying in simple English. Okay, so let's look at a few kind of little examples of that. So something that could be campaign analysis, for example. So a basic prompt, analyze this campaign data and tell me what happened. Right. Okay. Well, yeah, that might do something. It might get you something, but a precision prompt would be analyze the attached campaign data against the stated objective of generating qualified inquiries from UK manufacturers. Separate your response into blah, 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 big long list. Distinguish evidence from interpretation. So do not claim causation unless the data supports it, and state any missing information that limits your conclusions. Now, the difference is the improved prompt defines the objective, the analytical lens, the output structure, and the evidence standard. So rather than just evidence is campaign data and tell me what happened, and you will get some ideas. You will. It will be better than probably you could analyze. And it'll give you some ideas. It'll give you some insights. It can tell you what to do next. But how much confidence would you have versus the precision prompting process there later? It's going to be better than the basic prompt because it's going to be aligned with actually what you're trying to achieve. It's going to be able to show itself if it's trying to do something without the evidence, and it's going to show you the gaps. And then, of course, together, you and the AI can then work those gaps up. So the next time you do campaign analysis, it's going to be stronger. Second example here, marketing content. A lot of us are using, obviously, as we do, AI to create content. So a basic prompt could be write an article about AI in marketing. Okay, well, I think we've seen now that that's a little bit limited. So what we need to do now is start thinking in precision prompting language. So write a 900-word article for UK marketing managers who already use Gen AI but struggle to achieve consistent quality. Explain why the context, evidence, blah, 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 blah. So it's going a lot better in terms of the detail there. Use a calm, evidence-led editorial tone. Avoid hype, unsupported claims, etc., etc. So the difference here is the second prompt, the precision prompt, establishes the audience, much more useful for the AI, the purpose. Okay, I now know what I'm not going to write about, thinks the AI, the argument, structure, tone, and examples and quality boundaries. So it's now got this kind of ring-fenced set of guidelines into which it can actually then start to work its magic. I think you could, if you wanted to prove the point here to yourself and to others, you could do it before and after. So try this. Try an example like this with a basic prompt and see what you get. Then do it with a precision prompt. You can decide on the topic, but maybe this is an interesting one, and see the difference. I will guarantee you'll be wowed by the difference. The more you put in, the more you get out. I can't remember the official kind of cliched phrase there, but it is so, so true. And it so applies right here, right now, in what we're talking about. If you're willing to invest in precision prompting, the outputs will blow your mind. They really, really will. And you can improve outputs through what we call diagnostic feedback. Weak feedback is make it better, try again, make it more engaging. I don't like this. And sometimes it is frustrating. Maybe you're on your third or fourth iteration of a blog or something that you're working on with your AI. And it's just like, oh, come on, you're not listening. Or, oh, come on. It's not the AI's fault. It's you, okay, as a human. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror. Yeah, Neil, you do this too. Stronger feedback here would be the opening is too generic and delays the main argument. The recommendations are not connected to the evidence. The tone is too promotional for senior decision makers. The examples are concentrated in one sector. The output has ignored the requested structure. Now, if you're the AI listening to that stronger feedback, it's like, whoa, steady on. Okay. All right, I'm listening. Okay, I can do better. I know I can do better. Okay, Neil, I agree with you. Let me work through those things. And then it will come back to you with something that is way more in alignment with that feedback than make it better. Well, what is better? Try again. Oh, I can, but you're only going to get another version of what I've just done. Make it more engaging. Well, what do you mean by engaging? I don't like it. Well, you're only human, so what do you count? This is how the AI is thinking and feeling. Help it. That's not what you want it to be feeling. So giving it stronger feedback. And of course, as we know, for those of us who've used it a lot, AI is super patient. We've got to get out of the mindset that, oh, I can't really ask it again like we would if it was a human. There's only so many times you can be asking a human to revise or redraft something. But an AI has infinite, credits permitting, of course, tokens permissible. It's got an infinite capacity to go around again and again and again. It's working with the world's information at its fingertips, so it can actually do whatever you need it to do. It's super patient. So use that capability and provide stronger feedback to get what you want to. And that'll take us neatly to layer six in our six-layered structure here, using a quality gate. So before accepting an output, assess it against a really strong rubric. Okay, so this is basically sort of a filter, if you like, for saying, okay, this is good enough now. Okay, we've hit our target. Otherwise, push it back with that strong feedback. This is allowed. This is kind of how it learns, but also how you learn how to work with it. So you could score each area from 1 to 5. Things like accuracy, relevance, evidence, structure, audience fit, brand fit, practical usefulness, compliance with the prompt. So actually kind of do this. And again, it's an investment of your time because once it learns that, "Oh, okay, I only ever score 4 when I do that." Well, actually, is it the AI learning or is it you and the AI learning? Because why did it score 4? Well, it's possibly partly you and possibly partly the AI. Don't always blame the AI. The AI gave you the outcome and the output, but you did the input. You started this. So if you want a better finish, you're going to need to then obviously be part of this scoring. So the rating of how this thing works out is really, really going to help you because you can't improve prompt quality consistently without defining how quality will be judged. So you need the before and after. You need to be able to see this kind of, this progress actually happening in front of your very eyes. So it's a consistent way of approaching it. And once you've got a prompt that works reliably, you can start to both use this yourself again and again and again. This project that you've created, where it's all fully briefed, it's structured, and the AI knows you, you know it, and you're working well together. You can then start to use this across your team with your agency, whoever else it is. So save this thing as a template. Name the use case clearly. This is my campaign perfect go to market for a new product into a new sector prompting structure. Here it is, and I've saved it as a PDF. Because, of course, you could load that in as a PDF if you were a colleague or an agency. So you can be using this stuff consistently once you've got it working, and you can use it again and again and again. So prompting itself becomes more of an organizational capability when this good practice that you've established with this precision prompting is reusable because you don't want to be starting again from scratch each time. Obviously, you don't want to be making this thing up and think, I always have to type that in. You don't. Now you know you don't have to do it. You can do it once, refine it, save it, move on to the next example. And responsible prompting and prompt hygiene kind of talks about this whole thing of double checking because over time we know that there will be bias. We know that things will drift. I mean, AIs are in lots of ways, I guess you could argue, quite human-like in the way that they do actually behave. We'll call it behavior because they are giving an output, so it's behaving, it's behavior, it's an action-oriented thing. And of course, that will over time drift. Even if you did the most beautiful, perfect, definitive set of prompts, absolute precision prompts at the start, once you come to doing it the third or fourth time, and you come back to the campaign structure that you've got and you say, feels like it's drifted a little bit. We're now seeing US English, not British English, and we're now starting to see words that are a little bit too kind of AI. And look, there's the odd M dash appearing. Oh no, that's old school AI. Oh no, it's coming back. And you will start to see that the more you use it, the more it drifts. So make sure that you are constantly or on a regular basis checking in with that rating, checking in that things aren't biasing, checking in that any final claims are supported by evidence. So you can continually health check, which is really what it is, health check the prompting that you're doing. So let's build a practical precision prompt. We're kind of getting to the sort of the end of the structure here, and we're going to pull this all together now. So if you were to build a precision prompt against one genuine marketing task, there are 8 sections that you need to complete. Okay, and then you can test the prompt, you can score the output and revise maybe one weak component at a time so you can see the difference that you're making. So the 8 sections that you need to complete, and if you haven't noted these down as we've been talking through this, these are the 8 altogether. The goal, what outcome must the work support? It's a commercial thing. The audience, who will use or respond to the output, internal or external? Context, what does the AI need to understand? We've talked a lot about that. The source material, what evidence should it use? The task, what exactly must it produce? Remember to go really precise and specific there. Constraints, what boundaries must it follow? And those are things that it can do and things that it mustn't do. The output, what structure and format are required? And remember, examples, if you've got them, really helps the AI. And a quality check, how will you decide whether it is good enough or even as better than we've ever done? That rating system, the 1 to 5 scoring across those various criteria comes in there. And so that is a really, really important way of structuring your precision prompt. And of course, you can just very quickly see that that could apply to a very simple social media post all the way up to your biggest marketing strategy that as a business you've ever done. That same structure will come into play. That's the beauty of this precision prompting approach is it's flexible, it can be scalable, it can shrink down and be small, it can be significant and large. And so before pressing send, for example, if you were to do this on a piece of content, for example, is the intended outcome clear? Okay, here's your little prompting, precision prompting checklist. Is the intended outcome clear? Have I kind of told the AI exactly what this thing has got to be achieving? Have I identified the audience? Does the AI have the necessary context? If you don't know, remember the interview. Ask it. Do you have the necessary context? Don't just make this thing up. Don't just guess. Don't just assume. Ask it like you would a human. Have I supplied appropriate evidence? Yes, I have. Yeah, I've ticked off all those things. I've got that stuff in there. Are the constraints objective? Yeah, I was a little bit woolly about that. Yeah, maybe I'll be a little bit clearer about those guardrails, if you like. Is the output structure defined? Nice question there. Because, you might be thinking something, but it's going to give you something that's maybe formatted differently. I often find that. I forget the formatting thing. I just want an unformatted Word doc that comes out the far end, and then it does all its lovely, oh, I've made this look really pretty. It's all in different colors, and you've got tables in there. It's like, oh, no, that's not on brand with what I want to do with this. So even simple things like, do you want it formatted or unformatted? Because of how you're going to then use it is really key. Have I explained how missing evidence should be handled? Have I defined what good looks like? And does this task need one prompt or several stages? Because if by answering all those questions you think, oh, this is a bit heavily loaded, and actually I'm probably just going to give it too much and it's going to get distracted or it's going to miss the occasional bit in here, maybe I need to break it down. That in itself would be a great, great outcome from your prompting checklist. Doesn't necessarily mean that the whole thing isn't complete, but actually maybe it's a bit too complete. Maybe it's a bit too onerous and heavy for the AI. So if the only answer is, okay, we'll do this in 2 chunks, or we'll do this first stage first, and then I'll give you the rest. If that is the answer to that prompting checklist sort of set of questions, then that is a great outcome from that little piece of activity. Remember, this is you investing your time to make this thing work for the longer term. So finally, then, the key takeaways. Precision prompting is going to move you beyond the search for a perfect phrase or universal template, that idea that I can put one prompt in and my world has changed. Reliable marketing outputs come from a strong, consistent framework or system. You've got to choose the right model. You've got to state the clear outcome. You need to be sure about the relevant context, and so does the AI. You need to have and give reliable evidence. Structured instructions are absolutely key. The defined output is critical to get what you want in terms of the outcome. And quality evaluation gives you and the AI the opportunity to continuously learn. So next time, it'll be even better. And that's the mindset to have with this. OpenAI's current guidance recommends simplifying prompts, so not going big time into one prompt, but testing them against evaluations and turning successful versions into reusable templates. Remember to log what you do that works, turn that into a PDF because that is something you can use again, as can others. And the strongest AI users, they're not just focusing on the outputs and lovely images and blog content and social media posts. They are designing better conditions for useful work. And so prompting for precision is about structure, it's about a framework, and it's about taking the time and energy to move beyond just basic AI use.